Hey class. So for our final, we are participating in a beg, borrow, and steal assignment. We had to find a strategy that we have learned throughout this semester that we can take into our future classroom. The strategy that I have chosen is Jan Richardson's strategy. It is track a character's feelings is the one I have chosen. This strategy is used if the student or students are ready to identify character traits and motives in a story. When using this strategy, I would start off by finding the book that I'm going to be using. And the book that I will be using is Our Tree Named Steve. So starting off, I would place sticky notes, which I have here, throughout the book. Start in the beginning, work through the middle, and all the way through the end. And I would first model this strategy. So the strategy, like I said, I would insert the sticky notes, and on the sticky notes throughout the book, I'm going to be having the students write down how the character is feeling. On the board, I would have listed a few feelings, such as being happy, sad, mad, scared, and these words would display an expression of how the character is feeling. I will provide Appendix M in the book. It is right here. There's right here, and I'll print it off and have you guys have this sheet. But anyways, this the appendix, it has different feeling words, as like I said, happy, sad, mad, good, sad, mean, brave, and other. They have general synonym words such as happy. They would have glad, joyful, proud, merry. They also have more challenging words such as delighted, terrific, or optimistic. And so you could challenge your students to use these words throughout the story to understand and analyze the character's feelings. Throughout, after reading the story, you could have the students pull out the sticky notes, scramble them up, and then have to sequence them in an order of how the story turned out. So the students kind of can be able to comprehend and understand what they have been able to read. We've kind of learned about when creating a guided reading instruction, you want to have a synopsis of the story. So for the story here, Our Tree Named Steve by Alan Zweibel, probably pronounced that wrong. Anyways, the synopsis is when a family moves into a new house, they fall in love with Steve, the big tree that grows in their yard. Unfortunately, after many years of friendship, the father of the family has bad news about their devoted outdoor companion. So the first thing I would do in this lesson is model by using a think aloud. And then we would complete it together. So we do I do, we do, and then you do. Have the students wrap it up. And then I would wrap up this lesson. So starting off, Our Tree Named Steve. Dear kids, a long time ago, when you were little, Mom and I took you to where we wanted to build a house for us to live in. But in order to build there, men had to come and clear the land. I remember there was one tree, however, that the three of you couldn't stop staring at. Adam thought it was crying. Lindsay said it looked nervous, and Sari, who was only 2 years old, couldn't pronounce the word tree and called it Steve. I love you, Steve, she kept saying, and then Adam and Lindsay started saying it. Before too long, Mom and I got the hint and asked the builder to please save Steve. So on these 2 pages, I would model, right here I was talking about Adam thought the tree was crying. Lindsay said it looked nervous. Right here I believe that, I consider with this book being called Steve, Adam, Sari, Lindsay, they're all characters. but I consider the tree a character as well. So I would go in and explain how Adam thought that the tree was crying, and Lindsay thought that the tree looked nervous. So they could both say that the tree was feeling scared, or that Adam and Lindsay were both scared for the tree because they felt nervous or they're worried about the tree. They could then use the feelings and character trait chart to use the more challenging words. Say that they were terrified, possibly, that they didn't want the tree to be removed. Would then go on. The day we moved in, Steve was there to greet us. So on this page, it shows that they finally built the house. The tree, Steve, is still there. So the students could write on the sticky note that they were happy that that they got to keep the tree, or they were pleased. If they wanted to use a more challenging word, they could say optimistic, because they were excited for the future that they were going to be able to have with this tree in their yard. He quickly worked his way into our lives as a swing holder. Target, third base, hiding place, jump rope turner. And whenever our dryer broke down, he held our underwear with pride. Yes, right there in the center of our yard, this weird-looking tree grew to become the center of our outdoor life. Through all the barbecues, campouts, dance parties, or when Adam and Lindsay started getting crushes on the Simon kids next door, Steve adjusted to our every need. And then right here, I have a sticky note that I'd have empty, a brand new sticky note, and the students would be able to write in there what they believe that the student, or what they believe that the characters are feeling, or how the tree is feeling. An example that the students might say is that they are thankful for the tree, for Steve. They are thankful for Steve because Steve always adjusts to our every need. And it wasn't always easy, standing tall through snowstorms in the winter, or when Uncle Chester napped in the hammock couldn't possibly have been fun. Not to mention the time that the sewer overflowed and Steve sucked up all the smelly water before it drowned Kirby. And he got so sick himself that the tree doctor had to give Steve a haircut that made him look like a big thumb. Right here I didn't put a sticky note, but you could definitely put a sticky note here and say that the tree is sad or not feeling well because the tree is sick. Throughout the years, Mom and I have tried to show you, in a world filled with strangers, the peace that comes with having things you can count on and a safe place to return after a hard day or a long trip. Right here, I'd have a sticky note, and the students could, the students might feel gracious. They could use those challenging words such as gracious, or faithful, that the tree has always been there, that it is a safe place for the family to be, for the kids and the kids to hang out. Which brings me to the point of this letter. Last week a storm hit our area. And though we spared Steve's life a long time ago, this time we couldn't save him. And there's a sticky note there. You could see in the example, in the picture, the family's looking out, the parents are looking out, and so they might be sad that Steve is gone. Are we sad? Sure we are, but even in his final moments, when he could have fallen On our house, Sary's swing, Kirby's house, or Mom's garden, Steve performed his last trick and protected all of us to the very end. And friends like this are hard to find. Another sticky note. An example I wrote would be blank. An example I wrote would be that the students thought, or that the kids thought that Steve was brave. And using one of the more challenging words is that he would be heroic, because it talks about he performed his last trick and protected all of us in the very end. So he was heroic by protecting the family through the storm. As well, they could be thankful. They were thankful that he has been able to protect them. The students might have different responses. You just kind of go with it, and all of these responses are acceptable if they're able to have an explanation based off of what they have. So when you come home from Grandma's next week, Steve will not be able to greet you as he's done in the past. I'm sorry. Please know that Steve will always be with us in our hearts and our thoughts. And in a different tree at the other end of our yard. See you next week. Love, Dad. So for this strategy, track a character's feelings, I would, like I said, I would model, which I have shown throughout the book, and then you can do a we do. You interact with them. What do you think here? And then eventually have the students just take over and start filling out the sticky notes. Like I said, you could pull the sticky notes from the tab or from the book, rearrange them so they can kind of have an understanding, be able to comprehend how the story laid out. Like I said, the take-home element that I have for you guys is this character feelings and traits chart, which I'll have attached, so you guys can have this as well. And online, Jan Richardson has a Jan teaching track. Jan is teaching a track a character's feelings video, so I'll have that attached as well. At the end of the lesson, after you read the story, you could do a writing and reflection piece. This is where the students be able to actually write down. They can take the sticky notes that they've gathered throughout the book, and they can write down, say that the tree was feeling this because of this, or blank felt this because of this, or blank was this because of this. And or another example is the character is blank, and then the evidence in the text is, so at the end it would be maybe Steve, so the character Steve, the tree, is heroic or faithful, and then evidence would be he was always there for them, or he did not fall on their house and protected them and helped keep them safe. These are those reflection and writing pieces are attached to the character's feelings and traits chart, and you could use that in your classroom. This is a strategy that I have chosen, and hopefully that you could take and learn from it and use and implement into your own classroom. And hope you guys have a good time student teaching. Thank you.